Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we are going to be overreacting to every single NHL team's start to the 2021 NHL season. Now, I don't usually make overreaction videos this early into the season, but since it is a 56 game season and a lot of teams have played up to 4 games at this point, every game matters and every day matters, and I thought we'd get it done after the first week of the year, which is basically where we're at. So, what are my thoughts so far on every single team in the NHL, and what are my overreactions for every team so far in the 2021 season? Watch till the end for all the hot takes, all the opinions, and all the overreactions. And hit that subscribe button if you're new. We make daily hockey content here, and 70% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed, so every bit helps, and we're getting so close to 30K as well, so we'd love to have you. Now we're going to go in alphabetical order and work our way down, but we're going to start out today with the Anaheim Ducks, and my main overreaction for them so far this season, John Gibson is back to a Vezina Trophy level. Now again, these are overreactions that might not be completely true by the end of the year, but so far John Gibson has been marvelous. In 3 games played, has gone to .936 save percentage, just recently got that shutout versus the Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov, and I thought looked amazing. He looked absolutely stupendous and looked like he was back to that almost Vezina Trophy level that he's been in the past few years. Now, I thought he was great in 2018, great in 2019. Took a step back, though, in 2020, and you could kind of see that on the Anaheim Ducks. You can see it on John Gibson's side, but it seems like Gibson is back and rested, fully healthy and ready to go, and you've seen that just how good he's been with Anaheim, and he could be back throughout the rest of the year, hoping he's able to continue that and stay consistent the same way, too. Then going on to the Arizona Coyotes, and my main overreaction for the Yotes is that Phil Kessel might be back. Now, he's played 3 games so far, and the Yotes have played 3 games so far, and in those games, he's gotten to 3 goals, 3 points, and has looked like a good goal scorer so far. Now, you saw the goal that ended up forcing overtime against the Sharks, and that was just a super clutch, super needed goal for the Arizona Coyotes. And so far, the Yotes have just not been good whatsoever, but Phil Kessel has been getting some clutch goal scoring going, and in the first year of Arizona, for him at least, it was definitely disappointing. Offensively, in point totals, and just in terms of play, was not nearly as effective as he was in Pittsburgh and even Toronto, but this year could be different. If he gets back to that level, that'll be huge for Arizona. It looks like they'll definitely need those goal scorers this year especially, and Phil Kessel, let's hope, gets back to that fantastic level. Then going on to the Boston Bruins, though, and my main overreaction for them, they really haven't been that great this year, and I think especially a lot of that has been the goal scoring. They've gotten off to a 1-1-1 start and have just not been that great whatsoever. And the big thing here is that David Pastrnak is still injured. And my main overreaction right now is that the Bruins just cannot survive without David Pastrnak. And you can kind of see that, especially on the offensive side of things, just how poor it's been for them. Now, I think a lot of that has been due to luck. There's been some players that I think have been really solid so far, but have just not been able to get it in the net, but it's still the same way that David Pastrnak is one of the best goal scorers in the league, arguably top 3 at this point with what he's done over the past couple of years, and that's a guy that they are sorely missing right now in terms of that shot and in terms of that goal scoring ability. But now we can go into the overreactions for the Buffalo Sabres, and for my main overreaction, this first line for Buffalo might be one of the best first lines in the NHL. Now, they've went just recently, and I've went with Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel, and Sam Reinhart, and on paper, that is one of the better first lines in the NHL, but you saw it really take action in that game versus Philadelphia, where I think Hall got 3 assists, I think Eichel got at least 2 assists, Reinhart got 2 goals. It was just absolutely working the entire time, and for Buffalo, I think that first line has major potential. Then going on to the Calgary Flames, and my main overreaction, Jacob Markstrom is easily the best goaltender they've had since Miikka Kiprusoff. I mean, I think on paper, that probably was the case, but man, Jacob Markstrom has been humongous for the Flames so far, and as a guy that casually kind of likes the Flames a little bit, I always like watching them throughout the year. Goaltending has been a huge issue, really since Kiprusoff. They haven't had a consistent starter that they can continually rely upon year after year. They've had some guys that have come and go, and recently they've had Rittich, and even he, I wasn't really too sure about being the long-term guy, but they got Jacob Markstrom, they signed him long-term, and so far, that bet is paying off. Calgary's looked very solid too. They got a couple of big wins versus the Vancouver Canucks, and right now, are a team that is hoping to contend a lot in that Canadian division. Then going on to the Carolina Hurricanes, Hurricanes, my main overreaction is that anybody that had Andrei Svechnikov outside the top 10 winger conversation is looking like a fool right now. Now, that's not exactly a hot take for me because he is a top 10 winger before this season, but man, has he been good for the Carolina Hurricanes so far. In 3 games played, has gotten 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points, and especially versus Nashville, looked like an absolute madman out there. Then going on to the Chicago Blackhawks, and my main overreaction for them, I'm just saying, y'all, I predicted Chicago to be worse than Detroit just barely, but that prediction is looking better and better as the days go on. Now, Detroit hasn't looked amazing either, but Chicago, oh my gosh, has looked terrible. I don't think a lot of that is really too much of a surprise, especially with Taves gone and Doc gone and Nylander gone. They're missing a lot, and on paper, they're just not a great team, but man, have they played even worse than I expected. It's just been terrible day in and day out, and yeah, Stan Bowman still has his job. Just wrap your head around that. Kind of crazy to think. Then going out of the Colorado Avalanche, and my main overreaction for them, Andrei Burakovsky could score like 30 goals this year, and I think will fly kind of under the radar doing so. He's been great so far for the Avs, getting 2 goals, 3 points in 2 games played. From what I've seen, especially in that game versus St. Louis, he was a dominant player from the start for the end. And Burakovsky, I think, is one of the more underrated wingers in the NHL. Was fantastic for Colorado, especially regular season-wise last year, and it looks like he's getting off to an even better start this year too. I think Burakovsky, though, is a perfect Avalanche, a great transitional skating and puck-moving winger. And I think he's a guy that fits right at home on that team just in general. And for the Washington Capitals, they would definitely like to have him right now, I would say. Then going on to Columbus Blue Jackets, main overreaction, and there is quite a bit. They've not really played that great so far this season. But my main one is that the Max Domi trade is looking like a disaster so far. So far, Max Domi has been tried out at center, and I don't really know why they're continuing to do that since I think he is a better winger. And so far in 3 games played, has 0 points. Hasn't really played that much either and just hasn't had that much of an impact. And obviously, Josh Anderson didn't have this huge impact for Columbus last year, but it looks like he's really having a solid year and a solid start for Montreal. And on the other side for Max Domi, it's just not being used whatsoever. Then going on to my favorite team, the Dallas Stars, and they haven't played a game, so I don't know what to say here. So we're going to move on from the Dallas Stars and go to the Detroit Red Wings, and my main overreaction for them is that Bobby Ryan is looking very, very solid so far. Now, Detroit has, actually, Bobby Ryan has played 2 games played, Detroit has played 3, but so far in the 2 games played that Bobby Ryan has played, he's gotten 3 goals, just had a 2-goal performance in the last game for Detroit, and is looking like a pretty clutch top 6 guy for them this year, which I love to see. I mean, through how much he's went through in his career, and from everything that's gone on in his life, he's a guy that definitely deserves to have a retribution or revival-like season, and especially for the Detroit Red Wings, they'll need everything they can get consistently, and with Bobby Ryan so far, he's been awesome, and I really hope to continue seeing that goal scoring coming. Then going on to the Edmonton Oilers, and woof, there is a lot to talk about Edmonton. There's a lot about Edmonton that's just been bad and rough and terrible to watch, and I'm going to kind of condense it into one. But for my main overreaction, I think the Oilers' power play is probably one of the most embarrassing things we've seen in the NHL this season. With the amount of options they have, the amount of talent they have, the power play has been the worst in the NHL. So far, they've gotten 2 power play goals on 18 opportunities and have an 11.1 power play percentage. That's the power play of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Kailer Yamamoto, Tyson Barrie, Darnell Nurse, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who cares who else? Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's power play is an 11% power play right now, and that is unbelievably catastrophic. From a power play that was so lethal last year and so consistent to a power play that you would rather just be 5-on-5 for, to be honest, if you're Edmonton. Then going on to the Florida Panthers. The Panthers have only played 1 game, but I'm just going to say this right now. Drafting Jonathan Huberdeau in my fantasy team is looking very good right now, and I appreciate that quite a bit, Johnny. I appreciate it. And I've said this before, especially the last year or so. I think Jonathan Huberdeau is without a doubt the best player on the Florida Panthers. Some might say Barkov, but this isn't 2017. He's not as good defensively, and he hasn't put stock into that as much. And Huberdeau, I think, has been better defensively the past couple of years, has been better offensively the past couple of years. Maybe in 2019, I think Barkov had some better stretches, but I think Huberdeau has been the more consistent player, and I think he just continues to get underrated. I wouldn't say he's the most underrated player, but he's still on Florida, does not get as much credit as he deserves, and Huberdeau is an absolute stud. Then going on to the LA Kings, I'm not really sure what to say with LA. The big thing I would say is that Jeff Carter's performance has been really solid for them so far. He's played 2 games, getting 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points, especially in that last game. I think for the LA Kings, they looked very solid. For that last game against Minnesota, Jeff Carter, I think, got 2 points in that one and looked very solid. We'll see if that continues, but if it is kind of a revival year for Jeff Carter, that will be huge for the LA Kings, and especially going forward, having that leadership still in the locker room is definitely going to be helpful. Then going on to the Minnesota Wild, and my main overreaction for them, I mean, I'll say this. Kirill Kaprizov had a great first game. He's been a little bit inconsistent, it seems, so far, but I still think he is the Calder favorite right now. I mean, he was the guy that I predicted to win the Calder before the season. I've been watching him since 2017. He will rebound and get back to a more consistent level. So far, the defense hasn't been spectacular in his own zone, but I think offensively, he's done so much well, especially on the power play, that the Minnesota Wild love to have him every single night, and he's pretty much invaluable to that Minnesota Wild attack. Then going on to the Montreal Canadiens, and my main overreaction for them so far, and I'm going to say this right now, I mean, from what I've seen from all the teams, Montreal might be playing the best right now. Now, they played Edmonton 2 times, and I do realize, yes, Edmonton has not looked great this year, but Montreal, in terms of their whole roster, is really all clicking right now, and they have the potential, in my opinion, to go really far in this year's playoffs. Now, if you remember in my playoff predictions and standings predictions, I had Toronto number 1 and Montreal 2 in the Canadian division, but I saw Montreal getting to the conference finals and being a team that was in the mix in that top 4. Now, we'll see if they actually get that far, but I think Montreal, especially in this Canadian division, has the best potential, I think, to go far in the playoffs and have a great streak, and we'll see if that continues in this regular season onto the playoffs too. But I think Montreal is a team that, in terms of the Canadian division at least, might be the best cup contender. Then going on to the Nashville Predators, and the Preds have been interesting. They started off 2-0, then lost against the Carolina Hurricanes, but man, UC Saros, it looks like, is really going to have a good year this year. Now, he's played 2 games so far and has looked very solid, getting 2 wins and a 959 save percentage, and it's been unbelievable. The last game that Nashville played, they ended up losing. They played Pekka Rinne, and he made a couple of great saves, but he was against Carolina. But I think UC Saros, if he can have a year that he did like in 2018 as the full-time starter, I think that's huge. Then going on to the New Jersey Devils, and I'll say this right now, y'all. I'll say this right now. There are so many people in my comment sections over the last year saying that this guy was a bust, and I just said to give some patience to him. I didn't really think he was going to be great in year 1, but I think this is a player that will continue to get better and better and look better in year 2, that being Jack Hughes. And I want to say that Jack Hughes has looked amazing thus far. Now, I'm still the biggest Kaapo Kakko fan in the world, but both of them have looked amazing, but especially Jack Hughes, compared to what he was last year, has looked a lot better in the key areas. His shot and his finishing ability just was not there last year, but so far he's been a guy that keeps, or has a lot more relentlessness on the puck, is a lot more able to command shifts, and I think you kind of see that in what he's gained in muscle, what he's gained in physical attributes. He's, I think, a lot more ready for the NHL this year, and it has been showing. In 2 games so far, he's done pretty well, getting 3 assists and 3 points, but I think the goals will end up coming. It's a solid start for Jack Hughes, and I'm really hoping to see him continue that for Team USA, baby. Then going on to the New York Islanders, and I'm just going to say this right now, Semyon Varlamov continues to be amazing. Now, he's played 2 games so far, getting 2 shutouts, 2 wins, and of course, at 1,000 save percentage, and I thought that Varlamov was going to be the big thing for the Islanders. If he can continue the way he played last year, then that is huge for the Islanders, and they probably can be a playoff team. If he didn't, they would kind of sink, I think, in the standings, but so far he's been so good. Sorokin in that first game kind of had some jitters, wasn't that great, but if that tandem can really grind and play well this season, then the Islanders have a pretty strong chance of making the playoffs once more. Then going on to the New York Rangers, and they've only played 2 games from where I'm recording this. They're playing the Devils tonight, so we'll see what happens there, but just like Jack Hughes, I think Kaapo Kakko has been really solid this season. Now again, they've only played 2 games. The first game I thought was fine for him, but the whole Rangers team was just awful, and I really don't blame Kakko for not really doing too much. But in that second game, he was bumped down to the third line, but got so much better. He was probably one of the Rangers' best players in that game in general, and looked fantastic, I thought. He got the goal, and it was absolutely beautiful. One of the plays that he ended up setting up, and it later came back to him where he ended up scoring the goal, and I thought he just looked really consistent, really solid, and ready for the NHL level. Just like Jack Hughes, I think both of these guys will have a great sophomore season, and hopefully will finally start to dominate the National Hockey League. And now we can move on to the Ottawa Senators, and my big overreaction for them is that this year is Brady Tkachuk's coming out party. So far, Tkachuk has been honestly just pretty brilliant in 2 games played, getting 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points, but so far has an 82% expected goals for percentage, which is one of the best so far in the NHL. Obviously, it is a pretty short sample size, but Tkachuk was great last year for the Sens, but was kind of buried because that team just was not that great around him. But it seems like the Sens are playing better this year, but Brady Tkachuk has taken another big step. He's a guy that definitely for the Sens is definitely going to be one of their franchise faces going forward, and a fantastic potential captain going in the future. Then going on to the Philadelphia Flyers, all I'm going to say is, how the heck did you lose versus the Buffalo Sabres at home? That's all. That's my only overreaction. Come on, Grady. Get it done. My goodness. Now going on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. One of the most interesting storylines I think this season for them has been Evgeny Malkin. So far, I was checking the Penguins stats, and one of the people that has not scored any points so far has been Evgeny Malkin. 3 games played and 0 on the scoreboard. Now, I don't think Malkin has been terrible per se, but he's definitely missed a lot of chances. He's had opportunities and has just not been able to get it done so far. I think that is encouraging what we'll see later on, and I think he will get back to form this year. But Malkin was a guy that was way above point per game last year, was still a bit banged up and missed some games, but he was terrific for the Penguins last year, and I thought was really turning a page consistently. This year might not be that same way, but we'll see. I really hope to be wrong, and I really hope that Malkin catches fire soon. Then going on to the San Jose Sharks. I mean, for me, my biggest overreaction is that literally nothing has changed. Tomas Hertl is once again carrying this team offensively. The defense is still absolutely terrible, and the goaltending, I think, has been better. Martin Jones looked pretty good in that one game, but it's still not great. So, to be honest, I don't think anything has changed, and San Jose will probably end up missing the playoffs again. At least with how they're playing, they have not been good. And that, oh my gosh, that blown lead versus St. Louis, that was just embarrassing, man. How the heck do you do that? Well, speaking of the St. Louis Blues and my overreaction for them so far, I think Jordan Kyrou, man, might be one of the most underrated young players in the league. And I've been saying that Kyrou will get to the NHL level and be a very solid player for a pretty long time now. And he's definitely taken his time in the AHL to fully get going. But this start in the season is very promising for him. He's gotten 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points so far, and a 76% expected goals for percentage, which is one of the best in the league in terms of forwards so far. And I think you can kind of see that in his game, especially that last game versus San Jose. He got that absolute snipe, and Kyrou has always had the talent. He's just kind of been transitioning that, and he's taken obviously his time to get to the NHL level consistently. But this is the guy that I still think can have a big impact for the Blues, especially on the power play, and be a great young player for them. And so far, he has been that, which is great to see for St. Louis and for Kyrou especially. Then going on to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I'm going to say this right now, Steven Stamkos, y'all, might be back. He has been terrific so far to start the season. He's only played 2 games, but in those 2 games, he's gotten 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. And before the season, Steven Stamkos said this is the most healthy, and this is the most, this is the best he's feeling in a very long time. And that was encouraging news. But we had to see what he would do in the regular season, and so far, he's put his money where his mouth, or he put his mouth where his money. He's been good. He's been really, really good, and especially on the offensive side of things, looks to be a big part of Tampa this year, which again, especially with Kucherov out this regular season, will be huge for them in the coming weeks and the coming months. Then going on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, this player has only played 1 game played, but I really couldn't put any other overreactions out there since a lot of that was kind of negated with that great game versus Winnipeg. But man, Mikko Lennon looked very, very solid, and I think he's a guy that deserves to be in the lineup. Now, with that Winnipeg game, he ended up being very, very solid. Didn't get any points, but got a 55% expected goals percentage and looked very good, I thought, so far. Didn't play that much, was the extra defenseman, but I thought especially later on in the game really got it going, and for an NHL debut, I thought he did all the right things. I'm really hoping that he gets a consistent spot on the Leafs roster, because I think he deserves it, and a guy that should be in the lineup consistently, especially on those power play opportunities. And then going on to the Vancouver Canucks, that's another team that has just not been great so far, starting off with a 1-3 record, and I'm going to say this right now, y'all. I'm one of the biggest fans of this player, and I think he, before this season, could have been the conversation in the top 5 center race, but he has not been good whatsoever to start this year, that being the Swedish man, Elias Pettersson. Now, Pettersson has gotten off to a 4 games played start and a 1 assist start for 1 point, and from what I've seen with Vancouver, he's been alright, but it just has not been a consistent effort. From what I've seen compared to last year, it's just not as good as I have come to expect, but I think this is just a bad start for Elias Pettersson. And now I'm going to move on to the Vegas Golden Knights, and a guy that has been absolutely terrific for them so far and has been fantastic offensively and defensively, the new captain for the Vegas Golden Knights, Mark Stone. Now, my big overreaction is that he might be the best winger in the NHL today. Now, going into this year, I think the top 2 wingers in the league were Artemi Panarin and Mark Stone. I would have given the advantage to Panarin because I think just going into this year, he's been more consistently impressive, and especially in the offensive end, had a lot more to give. But so far, Panarin has been all right for the Rangers. Meanwhile, Mark Stone, I think, is playing his best hockey so far and has been insane and so important to Vegas's 3-0 start. Now, so far in terms of stats, he's looked pretty solid, getting 3 games played under him, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points, but a 84% expected goals for percentage, and has been terrific in terms of goals, actually expected goals against. Then going on to the Washington Capitals, and my overreaction for them is that the goaltending might be alright without Henrik Lundqvist. Now, Samsonov and Vanecek, it seems like, will be the tandem going forward, and so far, they've been pretty solid ends, haven't really been too bad. Samsonov had, I think, 1 bad game, but I think for the Caps, it's definitely encouraging to see Vanecek, who had that amazing game to start out for, I think, his first NHL win, too, which is a great story, but I'm really hoping that the Caps are able to continue that goalie trend, because they'll need it for sure. But then going on to the Winnipeg Jets, and the final team to overreact to tonight, I'm gonna talk about Patrik Laine, and if he's the Winnipeg Jets MVP this year, for all the trade rumors and all the craziness of Patrik Laine, he looks to be very good this year. And if you saw that first game that Winnipeg played, he was amazing. I think they played against the Calgary Flames, and Laine had, I think, one of his best games of his career so far, was just terrific, especially on defense, funny enough, and was really effective in his own zone. Now, he ended up missing the last game versus Toronto, I think is day-to-day right now, but if he does get back to that level of the first game and keeps that consistent, this will easily be Patrik Laine's best year in the NHL. If he can get that goal scoring going back again and keep that defensive game, Patrik Laine could be one of the MVPs for the Winnipeg Jets, and a guy that's towards the end of the season could be looked at as one of the best goal scorers once again in the league. But yeah, that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below what you agree and disagree with my picks, and what are your overreactions so far in the 2021 NHL season. Make sure you let me know. Of course, comment down below all your thoughts and share this video with your friends. Get the overreactions out there, and click on this card right here to watch all my hockey rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.